Welcome back to Old Plastic. Today on Farmboy Focus Collector, we're taking a look at the Smile Factory. On episode 1 of Farmboy Focus Collector, we took a look at the Cater Factory. And as promised, today we're taking a look at Smile Factory. The Smile Factory is not quite as diverse as a Cater Factory is, as far as the different markets that it encompassed. Like Cater had the glass light factory, had POC factory, also had Meccano, and China. I mean, it was a very diverse factory, probably the most diverse out of all of them. Now, Smile Factory does incorporate, Hong Kong Smile Factory as well as Palatoy Factory. There is a connection directly with Palatoy on the Smile Factory. Yeah, so Tri-Logo Palatoy and the regular US Hong Kong version. All right, so let's take a look at where Smile got its start. The first figures that Smile produced were these two here. These are the early Smile figures. And most notably about the first generation of the Smile Farmboy is that it has very pale yellow hair. It's a dull straw colored hair, and they all came with the M1 saber. It's the flat transition lightsaber. To begin with, Smile came with the M1, and then later, I almost think it was right around Return of the Jedi. I don't think it might have. I think Empire Strikes Back would have been the transition period for the lightsabers on Smiles. So yeah, they started off with the M1 saber, flat transition, and then went into having the M5 round transition saber in Return of the Jedi. But yeah, there was a transition period where you could get both, and I'll show you that when we take a look at some baggies here. But yeah, so the first generation had the straw colored hair. It had the M1 flat transition saber. And we'll take a look at the copyrights. Now, like I had mentioned before, every company that produced Star Wars figures, each copyright has two versions of it, and this is no different. I'll show you this here in a second. Let me zoom in. So let me grab my pencil. In this Smile copyright, it's a 2-line small copyright. This version of the copyright is let me get my pencil here. You can see that there's a wide gap between the G and the H. So there's a big space in between the two lines of the copyright. All right, so that's one version. Now I will show you this other figure. This other figure is exactly the same. You know, he's got the straw colored hair, same eyes and belt and pant. It's a tan colored pant. But if we look at the copyright, this is the other version of the copyright. You can see now that between G and H, there's no longer that pie-shaped wedge in between. There's no gap. All right. So let me zoom back out. So this was the first release. Straw colored hair, M1 saber, tan pants. two versions of the copyright, the spread apart and the close together. All right. And here in a bag, sealed bag, this is the Star Wars C baggie. This is a smile. Let me zoom in again. There we go. Okay, this is a Star Wars C baggie, smile copyright. It's the 2-line small copyright, and this is the spread apart. Now, on the lightsaber, now this is a Star Wars baggie, so it's going to be the flat transition lightsaber. There we go. Okay. So it's still the flat transition. Now let me zoom back out. All right, so that is the initial run of Smile back on the 12 backs. And I believe it carried on to like the 20 and 21. Then we come to Return of the Jedi. Just a sec, I need a cup of tea. On the Return of the Jedi, the hair on this row here is like Return of the Jedi. Most notably, the hair turned from the Star Wars one is straw colored. Return of the Jedi, it became a glossier paint, and you can see that there. It's the hair color became richer and glossier. Now, I'll show you this one too. This one's very interesting. Let me zoom in a little bit. See if we can't see this. There you go. See the belt? The brown paint on the Empire Strikes Back run turns green when it ages. See how green that is right there? Now, you can also see that green on the Smile Factory Chewbacca on his bandolier pouch. It turns green too, as well as the Smile Factory Princess Leia. Her hair turns that color green. It's whatever type of brown paint that Smile Factory was using it leaches out a green base to the paint, I believe. It turns, the brown, like here's the regular brown. It looks very dark here, but that's brown. And what will happen as this paint degrades is that the metallic-y green will leach out to the surface, and that's what it did in this figure here. Same figures, and you can see here now. This figure here is in bad shape. I mean, it's a beautiful figure, but he has degraded. They both started off life the same color. Okay, this one with the green pants started off life like this, as a dark tan, and you can see the hands did not age well. This figure must have been in, I don't know, poor conditions, whether it had been temperature, UV light, or what have you, but they're both the same figure, right? I have to use this one because I haven't gotten a better example of the copyright. So let's take a look at the copyright on the back of this, what I believe to be an ESB representation of a Smile Factory. Okay, can you see that without zooming in more? Let me try this. Okay. All right, so this is the close together copyright, where you can see the G and the H of the Hong Kong are touching each other, right? And look at this paint. It's a beautiful painted figure. There's no overspray or anything on this figure. It's too bad that his paint colors have all degraded that way. That's a shame. All right, so the second generation, lemony hair. That brown that tends to turn green. And I believe that on the second generation in The Empire Strikes Back, I believe that they started to transition to the M5 Saber, but I'm not 100%. I think for sure it was in the Return of the Jedi line of figures. All right, so the second copyright, let me zoom in again, for the second generation of Smile figures is this one. Let me see. Which is the spread apart copyright. All right, so second generation, both copyrights. On the right, you have the close together copyright. On the left, you have the spread apart copyright. Now, zoom back out. I do have a second generation sealed bag. This is an Empire Strikes Back D bag. Now, the writing on here was originally blue, but now it's kind of a green colored. The bag is degraded, as well as the figure as well. The figure, the limbs have turned pink in the bag. Now, this is an Empire Strikes Back bag, but yet he still, let me zoom in just a little bit. He still has the M1 Saber. So this is a sealed example showing a second generation Smile Luke Skywalker still with the M1 Saber. All right, but he's got that nice lemony colored hair, which is typical for the second generation. Zoom back out. All right, so moving on to the, I believe to be the third generation, which is Return of the Jedi. Get some more tea here. All right, so Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi Smile went to a brown hair Luke Skywalker. Now, there are still Return of the Jedi Smiles that are yellow hair as well, but they're the same figures that were in the ESB line carried over. But let's take a look at these. Okay, now, this, I believe, was the first of the brown hairs. This is, let me zoom in just a little bit so we can see them better. On this Return of the Jedi Smile, the hair is a light brown hair, but it has a red tinge to it, a red hue to it. Most notably about this figure is the neck and the hands are very pale. If we look at the next generation of him, you can see that the hands and the neck are painted much redder, more of a strawberry color. Oh, and the hair on the second generation of the brown hair is a greener. It's more of an olivey color. So you have a light brown that's got a red hue to it, and then you have a light brown that has a green hue to it. But we'll get to that. All right, so let's take a look at this figure here. So this is in Return of the Jedi. Light or pale neck, pale hands. Now, I have them with an. I have these figures with a. Let's see, are they both? Okay, no, this one. Oh, so I have one with an M5 round transition saber and one with an M1. And I'm not sure if I should be replacing this M1 with an M5 or if there was some crossover time period where they were using both. But Smile did use the M5 at the end of the run. So, yeah. All right, let's take a look at the copyright on this figure. Let me zoom in again. All right, so this Return of the Jedi smile has the close together copyright, and you can see the H and the G here are closer together. And then the other one that I have here is the spread apart copyright. And you can see that M5 saber right there with the round transition. All right, zoom back out. All right. So these are the two copyrights of the Return of the Jedi. Brown hair, light brown hair with the red hue to it. Okay, and now we move over to what I like to refer to as the Palatoy version, which is the no copyright. So let me zoom in again. So I believe Smile Factory had been working with Palatoy quite a bit, and I believe that Palatoy, excuse me, got a set of molds to start producing the figure, and they just removed the Hong Kong from the copyright. All right, so let me see. Let me bring the other one in here. Okay, sorry, it took a little bit to get this to focus. Now, as you can see here, this is a no coup. The Hong Kong's been removed, but you can faintly see where it was, and you can see here that the G and the remnants of the H are spread apart. So this is the spread apart, no country of origin version of the later release with the olive hair paint. Now, this one, same figure, except the copyright, it's the G is partially removed, indicating that where they removed the Hong Kong was so close to the G that this was the close together copyright. The no coup version, which was made by at the Palatoy factory. All right, and this is the olive colored light brown hair. If I can get this to focus, maybe if I zoom out a little bit. Okay, that's the olive brown. All right, so these are the two Palatoy produced no coups, and they are different than the Hong Kong versions that are in the back over here by the hair color, which is a light brown with a olive color, and the other ones were a light brown with a red tone, and the necks on the Palatoy version are more of a strawberry color, and the hands as well. So spread apart and close together, copyrights of the no coup. All right. Now we move on to the Tri-Logo version. Now, the Tri-Logo version was made by Palatoy, and there were no coups, no copyright. Let me zoom in. Okay. Now, the only difference on these were that on some of the Tri-Logos, they were packaged with an M3 version of the Luke Bespin saber. Let me zoom back out. Now, initially, and I've said this in very recent videos. And as collectors, we learn as we go, and we discover new things all the time. Now, on the origins of the M3 Bespin Saber being in the tri-logos, now I've seen photographs of carded tri-logo Luke Skywalkers with the M3 in the bubble with the figure, and it was laying loose. I've also seen tri-logo card backs, mint on card, sealed, that have the M5 Luke Skywalker lightsaber with the round transition laying loose in the bubble. So both the Bespin and the Luke Skywalker lightsabers have been photographed mint on card laying loose in the bubble. And I was originally taught that it was because there was flashing left over right at the end of the slot. Now, the way that these arms were produced, on the mold, this slot here was molded in, and then the hole that goes up through the end, the mold had a retractable metal pin that would push up in there right up to, there'd be a metal pin that pushes up the shaft right here until it meets this slot. Now, when it was produced, because that was a retractable pin in the mold, that it would leave a little bit of plastic flashing inside here, right inside. Let me zoom in a little bit. Well, right there, it would leave a little bit of plastic flashing, like when you see on a leg mold, there'll be a piece of over molded plastic sticking off. That's the same principle. And so if at the factory when this figure was made, that thin piece of plastic was pliable and soft, and you could poke the lightsaber right through it. Now, as these figures get older, I have learned from reading about this figure on Variant Villain's website. They said that, yes, that's a factory error. It left plastic, and as they age, that plastic gets hard as a rock, and you can no longer push a lightsaber through it, which makes a lot of sense to me. So what he says is originally they could have put a lightsaber through that flashing. It would have been pliable and soft. He says the reasoning that these Bespin lightsabers were put in the bubble was just a manufacturer's error. They were just throwing in whatever lightsaber, as long as it was a yellow one, into the bubble. So there's like two rules of thought on this now. One is the hole is too small and you can't put a lightsaber in it. And the other one is that they were just lazy at the factory and threw in a yellow lightsaber, whether it was the right yellow lightsaber or the wrong one. They didn't really care at the time. This was at the end of the run, Tri-Logo. Tri-Logo was the last of the Star Wars figures, and they didn't care as much. They were just throwing them together. So yes, there are figures that you can't get the lightsaber to go through, and I've had them, and I just bought one where the flashing was so covered up that you couldn't fit the lightsaber in. So it makes sense that there was a Bespin lightsaber in there. But there's also what Variant Villain says, that yes, there's always a little bit of over molded flashing in there because it has a retractable pin in the mold that puts in the hole in the shaft here. So where it meets the mold, it can leave a little bit of plastic in there. And when you first make it, the plastic's still warm and you can poke the lightsaber through it, no problem. But as it gets old, that plastic gets hard and becomes impossible to shove the lightsaber through. So whichever rule of thought you agree with, that's something that I've learned recently. So it's either that the plastic flashing was too thick and you couldn't put it through, or that it was just a factory error and they threw a yellow lightsaber in the bubble. Regardless, it was at the end of the run, and Star Wars was dying at that time that the Tri-Logo was being produced. Also in Tri-Logo, there was a lot of other figures that had weapon errors as well, where the wrong weapon was thrown in the bubble. So that was kind of an everyday occurrence during that time period. Regardless, I have two Smile Factory no coups with the M3 Bespin saber. So yeah, so whichever way, whatever you choose to think about on the reasoning for the M3 Bespin saber being in the Farmboy at that time period, I will leave up to you. That was something new that I've never read before. That I respect Variant Villain. He has a wealth of knowledge, far more than I will ever have. So his rule of thumb is that the M3 Bespin saber was put in the Tri-Logo just because it was available and they had it and they threw it in there, not because of the flashing that was built up in the arm. Either way, the hard plastic with the sealed hole is a factory defect, and you cannot put a lightsaber, a typical Farmboy lightsaber, into that slot because it's gotten so hard. So either way you want to look at it's fine with me. Just throwing it out there that I'm still learning. And this was a look at the Smile Factory. In my next Farmboy Focus Collector, we are going to take a look at the Taiwan Luke. I want to leave the Unitoy till the end because of all the variants in the Unitoy line. All right, guys, until my next video, take care of yourselves, and I hope you're enjoying your Sunday. Take care. We'll talk to you in the next one.